Hey everybody, welcome back to the kitchen. It is early on a Monday morning and I'm fixing to start supper. I know it sounds funny, but I want to get this going because we're having some concrete poured today for our sidewalks around our little outdoor room we've been working on for 2+ years. We're almost done with it. And I'm excited about it. We're going to have our first family Thanksgiving out there next weekend. So, yay. But anyway, today we are making chicken and okra. This is a dish that I haven't made for quite a while at the restaurant, and quite frankly, I have no idea why. It's very good, and I just haven't done it. I don't know, but I was digging through recipes, trying to figure out what to do next, and I thought, ooh, yum. We're kind of at the end of okra season, but I still got some beautiful okra from the farm, so I'm going to go ahead and do that today. And I'd encourage y'all to give this one a shot. It freezes beautifully. It's dairy-free. You can easily make it gluten-free with substituting the little bit of flour that you use to make a roux. So it's a very flexible dish, really tasty, really comforting and warm and yummy. So we're going to get to it. I'm going to flick the camera down, show you a couple things. It's nothing super like weird in ingredients. We're going to use some green onions, which I've got my dehydrated green onions rehydrating in some water. I'm wearing my Michael Jackson impersonation because I'm going to be cutting some chicken. It's just easier. Got a little trilogy, salt and pepper, chicken stock, water, some tomato sauce, obviously the fresh okra, or you could use frozen okra, works very well. I will, for the restaurant, buy okra in mass amounts, like 20, 30 pounds at a time. Like this is 2 pounds. And then cut it up into little pieces like this, however thick you want it, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, and then vacuum seal it. At the restaurant, I'll do 2-pound packages. For home, I would do 1 pound and throw it in the freezer. I don't blanch it. I don't do anything. Just raw, straight in the package, throw it in the freezer. It works very well. You can use it for gumbo. I put it in my jambalaya, which may be kind of weird, but I like it in my jambalaya. Okra and tomatoes, well, I don't care for, but I serve it at the restaurant. People love it. Gumbo, if I said that. This dish, you can roast it. I mean, it goes great from the freezer, toss it in seasonings, roast it in the oven. So very, very versatile and a way to use up excess okra because if you plant even 2 plants, you're going to have 400 pounds of okra. It's very prolific. And it'll go all through the season, through the year. So really good way to handle it. But anyway, let's get the camera flipped down. I've got, the recipe calls for 1 whole chicken. My whole chickens this year were massive. Like 4.5 pounds was the smallest one. So I didn't want to do a big 5 or 6 pound chicken. It's just me and my husband. So I'm doing leg quarters. So that's 1 3/4 pounds. And then I have 1 1/4 pound here. So I got about 3 pounds of meat, but it's in a leg quarter. So nice little coagulated blood there. I'm going to cut it apart into legs and thighs. You don't have to do that. But to me, it's just a little easier to work with in the skillet and doing the kind of pan frying part. So let me flip this down. I'll cut my chicken. No great shakes here. Show you a couple things on cutting the okra, and then we'll get busy. Okay, so we're going to get started with the chicken. I've got a Dutch oven. Voila. Over here, cast iron, with 1/2 cup of butter that I just kind of let melt. And I've taken my leg quarters and cut them into pieces. Now, a couple things I'll tell you on this. I've parted a bajillion chickens in my life, and sometimes they just cut like you are sliding a knife through butter. That's how this one over here did. This joker right here, look at that, man. I mangled that leg up to no end. I just could not find the joint. So sometimes it happens. One key is a sharp knife, of which this is not. So that, that kind of can play into your ability to find. See, here we go. This one's doing the same thing. So weird. Ugh, this knife is awful. I could chew through this easier. So sometimes you just kind of want to cut, and then there we go, pop the joint. But like this one over here, I just held it and just cut straight through it. I just hit it in the right spot. But I'm telling you, y'all, a good sharp knife is key. That thing, I could throw it in the trash, but I won't. So here's another little tidbit for you. Got a little piece of bone. When I vacuum seal my chicken or anything, sometimes the vacuum doesn't set. It just doesn't work. Whether you have a little crimp in your seam or whatever, it just doesn't work. So anytime I do that, I'll put a big X on the package. Not that I can't see that the seal didn't work, but just as another little visual reminder to use this package first. Not that it having a broken seal is going to make the meat go bad or anything, but it'll just make it get some freezer burn. Lord, I'm thinking freeze dried. That wasn't right. Freezer burn on your chicken. And one of mine, let me look and see if I can find it. Okay, here we go. You see that it's a little darker right there? There was a piece over here. I cut that off. I mean, you can tell the difference. This was not freezer burned. This one's got a little freezer burn. It's not bad. It won't hurt you, but it can taste a little funky, especially depending on how bad it is. So I'll just take my really super dull knife and just kind of shave off that top part. And see, underneath, it looks as pink and good as the other. So just, look for that. This bag, although it had the little X on it, got shoved to the back of my freezer. And when I was digging around looking for a certain weight, I found it, and so I'm using it now. So enough of that lesson. Now what you want to do is you're going to season your pieces of chicken to your liking, however you want to do that. I'm just going to do some salt and pepper and some pluck. So let me wash my goopy hands and I'll tell you all about the pluck. Okay, so here's my Dutch oven full of yummy butter. I'm going to let it get hot. This is pluck seasoning. This is their zesty garlic. In this bottle, I have their mild spicy, and it's very mild because I'm a heat weenie. I don't do hot stuff at all, and I can handle this. I love it. I just had it in this different bottle. So the thing about this seasoning blend, and this is not an infomercial for my market at all. I do carry this. You can order it online, but it is a seasoning blend put together by a chef, and it's got dried organs in it. This one in particular, onion, garlic, beef organ meat blend, liver, kidney, spleen, heart, pancreas, lemon peel, red and real salt, carrot, parsley, oregano, marjoram, basil, thyme. It's all certified, organic. It is a fantastic way to add a little bit of organ meats into your diet. If your family is anything like my husband, who just flat out refuses to eat organ meats, this is a good way to slip it in on him. So anyway, I like it. I like the taste. I have this one sitting on my dining room table. Or no, I'm sorry, this one's on my dining room table. And I put it on my eggs. I've done this one every morning. So it just gives me a little dose of some good flavored seasoning, as well as a little kick of organ meats, which is high in so many vitamins and minerals that you don't want to miss out. So that's that. I salt and pepper in the pan. Couple reasons: less messy, you don't have stuff flying everywhere, and the extra seasoning that would go on the cutting board or on the floor or wherever goes in your butter, so you don't lose any. So again, salt and pepper, and I'm using pluck. You could use whatever seasoning blends you enjoy. If you want to just do salt and pepper or some garlic powder or onion powder, that's all fantastic. So what we're going to do is fry the chicken in the butter until it's got a nice brown on the side, and then we're going to set it aside. And then I'll do the second batch. This doesn't take very long, and if you're using a deep Dutch oven, you don't have to worry about a lot of splatters and a lot of messes. But it is rather noisy, so I'm going to turn the camera off while this finishes so y'all don't have to listen to this, and then we'll come back to the next step, which is making our roux and our gravy. Okay, so this is the end of the first batch, and it took about 4 minutes on each side. And see, you're just kind of browning on both sides. And I'm just going to set it back here on a plate. This little piece didn't get quite as brown, not sure why. You want your pan on, ooh, that's a really nice one. I guess my pan's not very even over the heat. That's the problem. It's getting really nice and brown over here and not so much over there. So I need to move it. Oh yeah, baby, that's perfect. See, when the water drips out of your meat, it's going to splatter in that hot butter. So you want to be careful of that. But what I started to say was you want it on a medium-high heat because you want it hot enough that it's going to give it a nice little brown, but not so hot that it burns your butter. So I'll add my seasonings. And then, you know, season the other side when you flip it over. And like I said, it was about 4 minutes on each side. So it doesn't take very long at all. And I put up my other pluck, so I'm going to use the garlic because mixing and matching works well. Yum. Okay, we'll be back in about 8 minutes to move to the next step. Okay, before we move on to the roux real quick, I wanted to just show y'all something. Sorry, my ice maker's dropping ice. In case you've never fooled with okra. So, you know, this little part where it was attached to the stem, that's what you want to cut off. So I just slice that off. And then I'm just going to slice them. And you hear that? Oh, dadgum ice maker's messing it up. There's just a little kind of crunching sound. Not very loud. It's pretty tender. You know, that's okra. Now this one, and you can't always judge by the size, but usually once they get bigger, they get what we call woody. And listen to this one. You hear how super crunchy that is? I wouldn't use that because that is going to be really, I mean, you see, you look in here, it's like the inside of a tree branch. It's real woody. And so it's just going to be tough and chewy. And so that goes in the pile with the stem tips that's going to my animals. So anyway, just wanted to show y'all that. There's my 2 pounds of cut up okra I did while the chicken was frying. So I'm going to move over and we're going to start our roux. Okay, hopefully that's a good angle and y'all can see that well. So now we've got our butter that's seasoned and it's not browned because we didn't let it burn. Because you don't want that, because then you're going to have a burned roux, which means you're going to have a burned gravy, which means you're going to have a burned finished dish. Gross. All right, it's not quite hot enough. You want it when you dump your flour in there to just kind of sizzle a little bit. Because if it's not ready to cook it, then it can lump up, and then you're going to wind up with lumpy gravy, which is another non-thing you want to have happen. All right, can you see the little bubbly starting there? Yes, I'm just a tad impatient. Let it get a little hotter. And then we're going to sprinkle our flour in. It's a 1/4 cup of flour into the 1/2 cup of seasoned, cooked in yummy butter. And just stir it for a light brown roux. Now, one thing on making a roux, a base for a gravy, is depending on how dark you want it, will be how long you let it cook. And also, you want to be real careful. There's a fine line between letting your roux darken and burning it. So I'll use a whisk to get my flour in initially to make sure that it mixes up really well. I don't wind up with any clumps. But then I'll get a wooden spoon because I just like to use wooden spoon better at that point. And what you want to do is you can constantly stir it, which a lot of people will tell you to do that because you don't want to risk burning it. But if you're continually stirring, it takes longer for it to brown. So usually what I do, I don't leave it, but I'll stir and then I'll stop and let it kind of sit. And that flour that's on the bottom of the pan will brown. And then I'll stir, get it mixed around, and then I'll let it sit for just a second. I'm going to grab my wooden spoon. And then stir. this just works better for me. I'm going to add a tad bit more flour, because when you're frying the chicken, it's going to be releasing some fat. And so depending on how much fat is in your chicken and how much it releases, you may not get quite as thick of a roux as you'd like. So this is going to be a little thinner than I would like it to be. So I'm going to turn my heat way, way down, but not off, and grab just a tiny bit more flour. All right, got a couple tablespoons here. Ah, that's a little better. It's going to thicken it up a little bit more, which is what I want. And again, if yours was a little bit thinner like that, it's not going to hurt anything. Your gravy's just not going to be quite as thick as you might like it to be. And if you're new to making gravy, that's just something you'll get used to. As you make more of it and you see what it looks like, you'll get used to seeing that texture. Yum. I mean, butter's like bacon grease. It makes everything amazing. And we want this to be a light brown, so we're just about there. So I'm going to let it sit for a little bit. And then we'll keep stirring it some. And the thicker your roux is, the thicker your gravy's going to be. So I don't want a super thick like gloppy gravy, because I'm going to simmer this down with my chicken, so it's going to lose some of the moisture, and then it should get to just the right consistency. Okay, that's looking pretty nice. Now we're going to add our trilogy. It's a cup of trilogy and a cup of chopped green onions. And like I mentioned a minute ago, I'm using the dehydrated green onions that I had done earlier this year. My garden put out enough green onions to supply the whole parish, so I dehydrated a bunch of them. And then when I need them, I just rehydrate them in a little bit of water, and voila. I wouldn't use them in a salad, but to cook with, they are fantastic. All right, so we're going to get this mixed up really well, and then we're going to cover it so it'll steam and keep the moisture in, and turn it down really low and let it go for about 15 minutes. And I'm going to check it every 4 or 5 minutes, stir it around, make sure it's still looking good. So turn my heat way down, and then we'll be back for the next step. Okay, so it's been 15 minutes. Let's get this off here. You see all that steam that is on the lid, and every time I opened it 3 times, or 2 times. That was the 3rd time. You know, some of that water would run off the lid, and look, the vegetables are all nice and soft. So now we're going to add 8 ounces of tomato sauce. And this is a little deli I had in the freezer. I'm not a fan of plastic, but when it comes to my freezer, glass is just a little too questionable. The hubs is kind of a bull in a china closet, and so anyway, don't want to have broken stuff everywhere. So we're going to put 8 ounces of tomato sauce in here, and then let it go for about 5 minutes. I turned it down really low, and we'll stir it every couple of minutes. I'm going to put the lid back on it. Y'all, this is going to be yummy. And one thing I'll say, you know, as we go through the rest of the steps, adding everything, the recipe is you just put the lid on and let it cook. And then you're going to take the chicken out, debone it, and put the meat back in the pot, and then serve it over rice or cracked rice grits or pasta, whatever, you know, whatever you like. You can also do this in the oven. So you can do all the steps up to the point of deboning the chicken, and then pop it in the oven and let it cook for about 30-45 minutes on low, like a 325 in the oven. Then pull it out. So it's either way you want to do it. The oven is really great. That's what I used to do at the restaurant and what I will do again, because then I can be about busy other things in the kitchen and not have to stop and even think about it. Whereas on the stove, you might want to check it occasionally. So just another option in, ways to cook this. So we're going to give it 5 and we'll be right back. Okay, so we're at the end of our 5 minutes. Yummy. This smells super good. So basically we've got a super thick roux with some vegetables and a little tomato sauce. It's kind of where we're at. So now we're going to add some water. So we're going to put a cup of water. You can go up to 2 cups. I like to start with 1 and then see where we land as far as texture and then add if necessary. And then these are my little 1 cup delis of chicken stock that I keep in my freezer. I'll make up a bunch of stock or bone broth, put it in 1 cup, sometimes 2 cup measurements, and freeze it. And that way it's just super handy when I need it. Yum. Okay, so we got that. Then we're going to add bay leaf. And I think I'm going to go ahead and add my other cup of water, because this looks like, just a little thicker than it needs to be. And once it cooks down, it'll be too thick. So there's our 2 bay leaves. Let me grab another cup of water. I always just kind of like to be careful and check it, because once you get it in there, you ain't getting it out. And then we've got a teaspoon. I do about a scant teaspoon of pepper because I don't want it to be too hot. And a teaspoon of salt. And then a 1/4 teaspoon of thyme. All right, so what we'll do is we'll bring this up to a boil, then lower it down to a simmer and let it go about 15 minutes. This recipe takes a little time, but it's not a lot of hands-on time. It's some cooking time. So you can do it. I've been washing dishes and straightening up and doing all kinds of things in here in my little in-betweens. So we're going to get this up to a boil. So I've turned it up higher. And once it comes to a boil, I'm going to turn it down to a simmer. And we'll add our chicken. And then I'm going to put the lid back on and let it simmer about 15 minutes with just the chicken and the gravy. And oh my gosh, it's so yum. So we'll be right back. Okay, we're at a nice little rolling boil. So we're going to put our chicken in here. This smells amazing. Y'all definitely need to give this one a shot. Because like I said, it's so tasty and it freezes so well. I mean, this makes way more than me and the hubs are going to be able to eat. Even over several nights. So we'll eat it for dinner this evening. I'll probably put another couple servings in the fridge for later in the week. And then the rest is going in the freezer. And then I've got supper for a couple more times. So, lid back on here, chicken's all tucked in there, and we're going to turn it down to kind of a low simmer for 15 minutes. Okay, so our 15 minutes is up. Yum. I mean, it's not even 11 o'clock and I'm ready to eat. But anyway, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put the okra on top. And you don't stir it in. You just set it on, and I know I'm blocking the whole view, but this is not like this is something real exciting to see. Just kind of spread it around. Don't worry about stirring it in. It's just going to sit on top. Some of it is sunk down in there, obviously. And we're going to let it go 30 minutes on kind of a low simmer with the lid on. Now, this is the point. If you wanted to put it in the oven, you could take this whole thing, stick it in the oven on 325. And let it go for about half an hour. I'm just going to let it simmer right here. And then once that time is up, you pull the chicken out, let it cool enough to handle, debone it, put it back in the pot, stir it a little bit, and you are good to go. But we'll come back. You can see that part in the end. So this is going to be our 30-minute stewing time, and we'll be back in a few. Okay, so here we go. Our 30 minutes of cooking is up, and yes, that's very hot. Kind of a dumb move. So I'm going to pull my chicken out of here, and you see how all the okra just cooked down? It's kind of all simmered down into the gravy. And sorry, like a dodo, I started my dishwasher, so hopefully that noise in the background's not messing y'all up. This smells so yummy. Now, one thing I was thinking earlier, if you wanted to, I would not recommend, but if you wanted to, you could use boneless, skinless chicken. It's not going to be near as tasty. Look how that meat pulled away from the bone. The bone-in chicken just adds a level of flavor that boneless is not going to give you, not to mention all of the nutritional value. You're getting a lot of collagen and gelatin from the cartilage. You're getting minerals out of the bones. So I really, really encourage you to do bone-in. And whew, that listen to me, that skin, some of the best ever. So I put it right back in the pot. That might gross some of y'all out. If you just can't hang, don't put the skin in, but oh, I love it. So healthy, so much good quality fat and protein in that skin. Can't miss that. So now I'm just going to let this cool off because this is way too hot to handle. And I'll come back to it. I mean, it maybe take 15 minutes, and then it'll get to where I can pick it. And then we'll pick the meat. It goes back in the pot, stirred it up, and then I'll cook some rice later on, and that'll be supper. I'll show y'all the very finished product, but oh my gosh, it's tasty. Okay, I got all my chicken picked, and one thing I was going to show y'all, I left it, I can't talk, in pretty good sized chunks. And the reason being, oh, look at that butter, goodness gracious. As you stir it around, the meat is going to kind of come apart. So if you put it in little bitty, there's a bay leaf. I'll go ahead and pull that joker out. And I saw the other one. There it is. So 2 bay leaves, you want those to come out. You don't want to eat that. Best seasoning in the world, worst thing to bite into, ever. But anyway, as you're stirring it around, you don't want to just have your meat disintegrate. And if you pull it in too small pieces, then as you're mixing it, that can happen. And y'all, this stuff, I'm telling you. So I am going to, it's nice and hot. I'm going to stick the lid on. It's going to sit here on the stove for a couple of hours, just staying hot in the cast iron. A little while later, when we're done with the concrete, then I'll fix some rice, and there you go. You could throw some cornbread on the side and have a beautiful meal. Here's one other little random tidbit I'll give you. Doesn't that look yummy? When I was picking my meat, and I always do this, I pulled all the cartilage and chunks of stuff that's not a hard bone off the chicken, and whoops, that's all crooked. I'm going to give that to my dogs because just the bones can go in the trash. Cooked chicken bones can splinter. They're not good for dogs. Raw chicken bones are fine. Cooked ones not so good. But this cartilage and stuff is fantastic. They love it. I'll mix it in with her food. She'll be super happy. So anyway, everybody's getting a nice little chicken treat today. Chicken and okra. It's fantastic. Y'all give it a shot.